The drive home felt like a pressure cooker, and I needed to let off steam. I took it out on the empty car, shouting at the dashboard like it could talk back. Special night, huh? All that dancing just for me, right? My hands hit the steering wheel.
Again and again until my palms ached. 10 years, and this is how you finally show your true colors.
As I pulled away from the red light, my mind shifted into problem-solving mode. Rage wouldn't fix this mess, but maybe action would. Without a second thought, I grabbed my phone and dialed a number. Evelyn Carter. Evelyn used to be my assistant. Before she had to leave, thanks to Ashley's insane jealousy. It wasn't just that Evelyn was attractive, though she was. What really set her apart was her energy, her warmth. Always smiling, always radiating this effortless confidence. Sure, she had the kind of figure that turned heads, big, full curves in all the right places, but that was never the problem. The real issue was how well we worked together, how much we clicked. And Ashley? She couldn't handle it. Ashley had always been insecure about her 34B chest, and the idea of me spending my workdays with a big-breasted blonde who was sunshine incarnate hit her like a kid banging away on a brand-new drum set. Every night, I had to reassure my beautiful but paranoid wife that I wasn't falling for Barbie's tricks, as she called them. Eventually, I sat Evelyn down and explained the whole ridiculous situation. She laughed, brushed it off, and went on being her usual self. Still, I knew things couldn't go on like that, so I pulled some strings and got her a job with my buddy Andrew. Better pay, better title. It was the least I could do. But even after she left, every time we ran into each other at a party, she'd flash me that knowing smile, wink, just enough to keep the invitation open. Tonight, though, I wasn't calling for flirtation. When she picked up, her voice was soft, but surprised. "Paul, why are you calling so late? Is everything okay?" I let out a heavy sigh. "No, Evelyn, everything is very, very far from okay." I laid it all out for her, every ugly detail. She gasped. "Are you kidding me? Ashley threw away your marriage for a one-night stand with some dumb jock?" Yeah, that about sums it up. Guess that tells you how much I was worth in her eyes. She's a damn fool. I must be a dumb blonde for even trying to make sense of it. Listen, don't go home tonight. Stay here. I've got a spare bedroom, and right now, you need a friend. I hesitated. Seriously, Paul, give me an hour to drop the kids at my parents' place. I exhaled, the tension in my chest loosening just a fraction. Okay, thanks, Evelyn. Before heading over, I made a few more calls. First to Mrs. Porter, I was picking up the kids, then to my parents, asking them to take the little ones for the weekend. They had a million questions, of course, and when I finally told them what happened, they were floored. Shock didn't even cover it. Next, I called Ashley's parents. Her mother refused to believe me. "Okay, Mom," I said flatly. "Call her, see if she picks up." She won't, though, because right now she's too busy screwing some guy she met earlier today. You won't hear from her until tomorrow at the earliest. But if you still don't believe me, drive by the house. Her car will be in the garage, untouched, hood cold. If you need more proof, be there by 10 seeds tomorrow morning. I don't know when her new boyfriend will drop her off, but I doubt it'll be before then. And if I'm not there, the door will be unlocked. Let yourself in, make yourself some coffee. That was that. I took the kids to Grandma's, then went home to pack a few bags, toiletries, clothes for the next few days. Before I left, I pulled off my wedding ring and set it down on the kitchen table, on top of an envelope with her name on it. Inside was a note, simple but final. The divorce papers will be served in a few days. I'll be staying with Evelyn Carter, someone who actually respects me. Thank you for our 2 wonderful children. May you and the guy you left me for rot in hell. With that, I walked out. On the way to Evelyn's, I called her again. Sorry, took longer than I expected. No problem, Paul. You want some coffee when you get here? That would be great. When I got to her apartment, she was already at the door, dressed in a knee-length
robe tied loosely at the waist. She opened her arms, and the second she pulled me into her embrace, everything I'd been holding back hit me like a freight train.
I broke down. She stroked my back, her voice gentle. It's okay. You're with a friend now. She guided me inside, closed the door behind us, and sat me down on the couch. A few minutes later, she handed me a steaming mug of coffee. I took a sip, letting the warmth chase away the cold in my chest. Thank you, Evelyn. You have no idea what this means to me. She sat beside me, resting a hand on my shoulder with a small smile. Of course I do. What are friends for? I chuckled bitterly. You mean besides firing them for being too nice? She smirked. Don't forget that nice promotion you got me with Andrew. I shook my head, my stomach twisting. The irony is just unreal.
Ashley spent years convinced I was going to steal you away from her. She pushed me to fire one of the best employees and best friends I've ever had. And what do I get in return? She sleeps with a guy she met a few hours ago. Evelyn sighed. She's heartless, Paul. Cruel. I took another sip of coffee and exhaled. Pardon my French, she laughed, squeezing my shoulder.
Oh, don't hold back now. Tell me how you really feel. Truth is truth, no matter the language. She leaned in. So what's next? Give me the unabridged version. I ran a hand over my face and let my head fall back against the couch. Where do I
even start? Then suddenly it hit me. I bolted upright. Wait a second. Evelyn frowned. Forget what? I reached into my pocket, pulling out my phone. I videotaped Ashley dancing with that guy. Wait, what?
I turned the screen toward her, pressing play on the video. Ashley swayed against her new fling like she was ready to take him right there on the dance floor. Evelyn's hand shot to her mouth. Oh my God, she looks like she's about to... Exactly. I clenched my jaw. Hold on a second. Before I could think twice, I sent the video to a handful of people who needed to see it. Her parents, my parents, her sister, and a few of our mutual friends from work. Along with the footage, I attached a message. Ashley made her choice tonight. As you can see, this isn't a joke. Less than 10 minutes after this video was taken, she slipped out the back door with Caleb Miller. No words, no goodbye, nothing. If you're wondering what she's doing with him now, this video should give you a pretty good idea. Is this how a decent wife behaves? When you hear that I'm divorcing her, now you'll know why. Sorry if this ruins your day, but I figured you should hear it from me. I also made sure to copy Evelyn on the email just in case Ashley decided to study the recipient list. After hitting send, Evelyn wrapped me in another hug. I'm so sorry, Paul, I exhaled sharply.
Thanks, and thanks for being here for me.
I took another sip of coffee just as my phone buzzed with a new text. Check your Facebook page. Evelyn, always one step ahead, pulled my laptop from my bag and set it up on the coffee table. She knew her way around my stuff, and by the time I placed my empty coffee mug down, she already had my page open. What I saw next was unexpected. Andrew, my buddy and Evelyn's boss, had shared a post from someone who had also caught Ashley's little performance on video, but this one came with a scathing caption, Miller strikes again. Our esteemed ladies' man just bagged his 38th married woman. All it took was a couple of dances to warm her up before he whisked her away to his mansion for the night. And as always, the husband, like so many before him, never saw it coming until it was too late. When he tried to intervene, Miller's defenders stepped in, two guys who get paid millions to block tackles every Sunday and apparently every Friday night too. How long before someone stops this guy? I scrolled down and saw similar posts from Previous weeks, different women, same story. Without hesitation, I sent the guy a friend request, then took a screenshot and posted it to both my page and Ashley's. No comments, not yet. Finally, exhaustion overtook me. Evelyn noticed and gently
led me to the spare bedroom where I collapsed onto the bed, still fully dressed.
When I woke, I was still sprawled on top of the blankets, but someone had draped another over me during the night. Stumbling into the bathroom, I took care of the basics, splashing cold water on my face to clear the lingering fog in my head. From the hallway, Evelyn's voice rang out. "Breakfast will be ready in 20 minutes. Take a quick shower." By the time I made it to the kitchen, the scent of bacon and fresh coffee stirred my appetite awake. "So," Evelyn said, sliding a plate in front of me. "What's the plan for today?" I sighed. "Honestly, no clue. Maybe I should be there when she gets dropped off." Evelyn shook her head. "I wouldn't if I were you." "Why not?" She tilted her head. "Why not let her feel some of what you felt last night? The confusion, the abandonment. Let her come home to an empty house and wonder." I hesitated, then nodded. "You're right." "Why didn't I think of that?" Evelyn smirked. "Probably because you were too busy feeling everything. But don't worry, the security system will pick up everything." She was right, and as it turned out, things played out even better than expected. The camera feed showed Miller pulling into the driveway in a flashy red Ferrari Daytona convertible. He stepped out, then sauntered over to the passenger side to escort Ashley, still wearing last night's blue dress, to the front door. Was he trying to intimidate me, or just showing off? Ashley turned toward him, clearly expecting some kind of goodbye. When he didn't respond, she reached for him instead, inviting him in. He didn't hesitate. The moment the door shut behind them, he pulled her close, showering her with deep, heavy kisses. At first, she resisted. For a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, she had some shred of guilt. But that hesitation didn't last long. Within moments, she melted into him. His hands gripped her ass as she lifted one leg around his waist, pressing closer. He slid both hands under her, lifted her effortlessly, and carried her toward the couch. Her arms wrapped around his neck, her body grinding into him as his lips trailed down her throat. Beside me, Evelyn's breath hitched. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. "Time to put the house in order," I muttered, then correcting myself. "Not my house, not anymore." Just as I reached for my laptop to turn off the feed, another motion alert flashed across the screen. New arrival. Her parents, Evelyn, burst into laughter. "No, wait! We have to see this!" We watched as her mother and father stepped through the still open front door and straight into the living room. There was no mistaking what they walked in on. Ashley's mother shrieked. Her father bellowed, "What the hell is this?" Miller, clearly annoyed, turned to them. "Can't you see this is a private moment?" I knew what was about to happen. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. "My wife is being raped in our house," I said, voice steady but urgent. "Her parents just arrived, and the attacker is about to assault her father. I need police and an ambulance now." I hung up, and Evelyn and I rushed to my car. By the time we pulled up, my parents were already parked behind the Ferrari. I didn't stop there. I parked down the street and hurried toward the house. Just as a black and white patrol car screeched to a stop, two officers jumped out, rushing for the door, and I followed closely behind. Inside, Miller stood over my father-in-law, poised to kick him again. Ashley's dad lay curled in a fetal position, arms shielding his face. Ashley? She was covering her face too, sobbing uncontrollably. The male cop immediately pulled his gun. "You get your pants on and ma'am, cover yourself." As soon as Miller had some semblance of decency, the officer slapped cuffs on him and dragged him outside. Ashley's mum ran straight for me, tears pouring down her face as she clutched at my shirt.
"I didn't believe you," she sobbed. "What did I do wrong?" Ashley's mother stood there, shaking her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "How could my child do this to me, to you, to everyone?" The flashing red and blue lights of the ambulance
cast eerie reflections across the walls as paramedics knelt beside Ashley's father. He was still curled up, his body tense with pain, his hands shielding his face like he was bracing for another blow. But now that the immediate danger had passed, he cautiously lowered his arms, opened his eyes, and scanned the room. The moment he saw Ashley, his breathing hitched, and then pain contorted his face. "Show, easy now," one of the EMTs murmured, placing a firm but gentle hand on his shoulder. "I think you've got a few broken ribs. No deep breaths, all right? Just small ones. We'll get you to Mercy Central soon." Ashley's father looked at her again, his expression heavy with something deeper than pain, disappointment. He shook his head slowly, almost imperceptibly. Ashley, her face crumbling, let out a strangled sob and lowered her head, tears spilling onto the floor. A stretcher was wheeled in, and with delicate precision, they transferred him onto it. As he was rolled out, a fresh wave of people arrived, neighbors, my parents, my children, even a handful of former friends. Their eyes were wide with shock. 2 cell phones were raised, capturing everything. I ran a hand down my face and turned toward the gathering crowd. "Thanks for coming, guys, but I think we've had enough of a spectacle for one day." I ushered them away, ignoring their whispered conversations and lingering stares. Only my dad and Ashley's mum stayed behind. Apparently, my mother had taken one look at the situation, scooped up the kids, and rushed them off to McDonald's. God bless her. I turned to Ashley, my voice low but firm. "You're in deep." She sniffled. "Go take a shower and put some real clothes."
"On?" I added, with a sharp intake of breath. She snatched up her wrinkled blue dress from the floor and scurried upstairs. The 3 of us sat down, silence thick and suffocating.
Ashley's mother shook her head for what must have been the 100th time. "I'm so embarrassed, Paul. How can I ever apologize for this?" Before I could respond, my father interjected, his tone calm but resolute. "You don't have to, Betty. I've known Ashley for over 10 years. Once upon a time, she was a daughter any parent would be proud of." He sighed. "Somewhere along the way, that man flipped a switch in her, and everything good in her just shut off." He looked at her mother. "This isn't your fault. I understand how you feel, but don't carry her mistakes like they're your own." At that moment, a quiet sigh echoed down the staircase. Ashley had emerged halfway down the steps, wrapped in fresh clothes but still visibly shaken. She must have heard my father's words. "You're right," she whispered, voice thick with remorse. "This is all because of me. I'm irresponsible. I'm selfish. I can never make this right, can I?" It was the first time she'd spoken to me since she cut the connection last night, since she'd chosen to sneak out the back door instead of facing me. For a split second, instinct took over. I wanted to reach for her, to tell her that never was a long time. But then the reality of what she had done settled like a weight in my chest. She had willingly walked out of this house with another man. She had ignored me, discarded me like I was nothing. I clenched my jaw. No, I wouldn't comfort her, not after what she did. Instead, I spoke the truth. "Ashley, you didn't just make a mistake," I said, my voice eerily calm. "You chose this. You planned every step. This wasn't some drunken slip-up at a party. It wasn't a reckless one-night stand after too many drinks at a conference. You deliberately abandoned me, abandoned our kids. You cut yourself off from us physically and emotionally so you could be with him." Her lip trembled, but I didn't stop. "So tell me, Ashley, how exactly do you see yourself fixing this?" The weight of my words crushed whatever composure she had left. She burst into fresh sobs, turned, and fled back upstairs, slamming the bedroom door shut behind her. Right then, my mother's car pulled into the driveway. My dad stood and placed a hand on my shoulder. "We'll keep the kids until tomorrow night. Longer if you need." I nodded. "Thanks, Dad." My phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. "Are you coming? Back or staying?" I hadn't even noticed her leave. Ashley's mother sighed and looked up from her own phone. "The hospital just called. We can visit him now." I grabbed my keys. "Let's go." On the way there, my phone buzzed again. "Where did you go, Ashley?" I didn't answer. Let her feel what it's like when your spouse disappears, leaving you in the dark with no idea where they've gone. When we arrived, Ashley's father looked worse than I expected. His face was pale, his breathing shallow, but when his wife walked in, a flicker of light touched his eyes as much as it could. His battered face softened. She took his hand and whispered, "My hero." Tears slipped down her cheeks. I stepped to the other side of the bed and took his other hand.
"I'm so sorry you got dragged into my mess." He gave me a tired but knowing look. "The police want you to press charges," I continued. "They've been waiting a long time for that bastard to finally break the law." A thought struck me, and I knew
exactly what needed to be done. Stepping away, I pulled out my phone and called the detective who had broken up the fight. "Do you have contact info for the DA?" I asked. "And any press outlets that might be interested in this story?" As I spoke with the assistant district attorney, a doctor came in to check on Ashley's father. I handed the phone to him. "Can you list all of his injuries for the record?" He nodded, glancing at the chart. Multiple broken ribs, a fractured
arm, a broken nose, internal injuries. While they spoke, another thought took root in my mind. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about every man Miller had done this to, every family he had destroyed.
And I was going to make damn sure the world knew exactly who he was. When the doctor finished listing the injuries, I picked up my phone and spoke directly to the prosecutor. "I've got everything recorded on my home security system. Do you want me to send it over?" The response was immediate. "Hell yes. Are you kidding me? We're going to need all the evidence we can get. The Sharks are going to throw a battalion of high-priced lawyers at this case to try and make your father-in-law look like the aggressor. We need every piece of ammunition we can get." I handed everything over to Ashley's mom. Her husband had been given a heavy dose of medication and was already slipping back into unconsciousness. Waving her off, I told her I had to deliver the footage to the police and the DA, then left. True to her word, Evelyn had prepared a simple but fantastic lunch. Between bites, she interrupted herself. "Daryl Fates from Channel 6, he's married. To my sister. Want me to give him a call?" I nodded. "Yeah, that would be great. I'm sure he'll love the story. The Sharks pulled their advertising from his station when they moved to Channel 8 2 years ago, so he's got no reason to hold back." "Perfect," she said. "Let me get the surveillance table from the cloud." For the next 3 hours, I sifted through security footage, breaking it into 2 sections. The first showed Ashley and Miller's arrival, their activities in the living room. The second covered the arrival of Ashley's parents and the moment things turned violent. Evelyn and I had been on the road when it all went down, so this was my first time seeing it. And damn, Ashley's mum had played it smart. When she spotted the Ferrari in the driveway, she held the kids back, and let her husband go in first. The moment he stepped through the door, all hell broke loose. "What the hell are you doing with my daughter?" he roared. Ashley shrieked in surprise, spinning. Around just as her father lunged, Miller didn't hesitate. He turned and cold-cocked the older man in the face, sending him crashing to the floor. Then, as Ashley stood there frozen, he started kicking him, hard, over and over. Watching it made my stomach turn. Evelyn, who had been standing next to me, let out a sharp breath and clutched her phone. "Daryl, you're not going to believe this. I just saw the footage for the first time. This is worse than Ray Rice beating up his girlfriend. You have to see this." She rattled off his number, and I sent both video clips. Seconds later, my phone pinged with a confirmation. Evelyn smirked and spoke into hers again. "Daryl, you've
Got an exclusive? This is better than TMZ catching Tiger Woods cheating. Burn the bastard!"
Right then, my phone rang. Ashley. I sent her straight to voicemail. A text followed almost immediately. "Where are you?" I stared at it, then smirked. Time for her to experience a bit of what I went through. Instead of answering, I shot back a single message. "I'm with Evelyn." Not another word. She called again. I let it go to voicemail. Instead, I forwarded the footage of the attack to the police and the prosecutor's office. As the dust settled, I called Ashley's mum to check on her husband. "He's sleeping again," she said. "The police already came by to take his statement. They said they have a video of that bastard beating up my husband for trying to protect his own daughter." "Good," I replied. "Mum, I'm contacting a few attorneys. I'm going to sue him, his team, and the NFL. Once I find the right lawyer, I'll pass their information along to you. Maybe we can make sure this costs him." She sighed, sounding exhausted. "Whatever happens, he's going to pay for what he did to my husband." For dinner, I took Evelyn to a small Italian bistro. At least I had the energy to shower and change. When we got back, I collapsed onto the spare bed and fell into the deepest sleep I'd had in weeks. When I woke up, I scrolled through my messages, every single one from Ashley, voicemails, texts, deleted, unread, unheard. But a few stood out. Watch the morning news and pick up the Times. Curious, I turned on the TV. The moment Channel 6's broadcast began, I knew Daryl had done his job. The lead story, Miller arrested for rape and assault. I smirked. Trust the media to go straight for the most outrageous headline. The newspaper had been a little more careful. The article stated that police were still investigating and had not yet interviewed all witnesses, but unnamed sources claimed Miller had been arrested for raping a married woman in her own home and brutally assaulting her unarmed father when he tried to intervene. The player, his team, and the league all declined to comment, citing an ongoing investigation. But the damage had already been done. Evelyn and I had recorded the Channel 6 newscast. They aired edited snippets, blurring out anything too explicit. But Miller's arrogance was impossible to hide. The footage of him berating an elderly man, kicking him while he lay helpless on the ground. That played on a loop, and it did not look good. Sunday is usually a slow news day. Not this time. By the afternoon, every major outlet had picked up the story. The national media ran with it, and before the day was over, it was clear Miller would never play professional soccer again. His charities scrambled to distance themselves. His team suspended him indefinitely, and the NFL, after very carefully reviewing what happened to Ray Rice and other disgraced athletes, issued a public statement. The league will not tolerate acts of violence of this nature. His endorsements gone, his career over. By evening, several attorneys had reached out to Channel 6, asking for my contact information. This wasn't just a scandal anymore, it was justice. Evelyn, my former assistant, stepped up as my manager, and together we hired an attorney to sue Miller's team, league, and sponsors. The same legal team represented Ashley's father, while I hired a separate lawyer for the divorce. Though tempted to make Ashley pay, I kept it fair. She got the house and primary custody of the kids. She was a good mother, and with the settlements coming, money wasn't an issue. Miller's troubles escalated as more victims came forward. Our attorneys uncovered ignored complaints detailing his predatory behavior and his teammates' intimidation tactics. When it became clear the team had covered it up for years, the owner was forced to sell. He got a good price but lost nearly all of it in the class action lawsuit. Even Morrison's, the club where Miller prowled for women, got sued. Despite his talent, no team would touch him. Every comeback attempt was met with bad press and public outrage. Thanks to Evelyn's son-in-law, a media insider, eventually Miller gave up and became a high school soccer coach in Alaska. He couldn't even land a used car commercial. With my financial future secure, I took the kids on a Disney vacation. Though they sensed our family had changed, extra love from their grandparents helped. Ashley eventually admitted her mistakes, took responsibility, and became a great co-parent. She remarried years later, and though we were civil, I often caught her glancing at Evelyn, fully aware she had destroyed her own marriage. After my divorce, Evelyn made her move. We built a life filled with love, loyalty, and passion. She gave me 3 more children, and though my older kids didn't see them often, we remained a close family. Best of all, Evelyn never once made me feel less. Honestly, life with her was a pleasure. Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters, and trust.
Me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.